Welcome to Delightfully Dysfunctional, a podcast about navigating the emotions of the human condition and the challenges that come with it. I'm Kaylani Persian Mason, a psychotherapist and life coach with James Timmons, an ever-curious human. This is not a replacement for mental health therapy. Please seek out mental health care if that's what you're needing. This is an opportunity for self-healers to dive deep and understand more about themselves. Welcome back to Delightfully Dysfunctional. I'm Kaylani, and I'm here with James.
I'm James.
And welcome. Today, we are going to be talking about confidence. You can't give the confidence to open this
How do you
water
open
bottle?
this? Okay, there we go. It's a screw. Okay.
You have to be smarter than the water bottle.
Thankfully, I got that on video. You guys can watch me struggle.
Oh, man.
Confidence, yeah.
The struggle is real. Confidence and how, what are qualities and characteristics of confidence that we can see? How do we know when someone is confident? How can we adopt some of those different traits? How do we lean into it? How do we build a confident mindset? What might be some hurdles to feeling confident? Oh, I don't like how I said that.
No, you're fine. It sounds like you're lacking confidence today with your words,
enunciation
with your speaking.
Today.
You sound amazing. Be confident.
Be confident. I stayed up too late last night. I think that's why. So if I can't say my words right, be nice to me.
Well, my observation of what is a good, healthy, balanced confidence would be a certain amount of humility, a little pinch of reality, but then a heavy dose of knowing your true value and your worth, and then and really learning yourself and knowing your boundaries and what things kind of derail you and get you off track,
Yeah, exactly. I think real confidence is rooted in really authentically assessing yourself and being self-aware, and it involves really recognizing someone's strengths and weaknesses. So it's not an idea of I'm the best.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people think of as an idea of confidence. I see that as a real ego flex. And there's certainly people who can kind of performatively act out confidence in that ego state of I'm the best, I'm better than you. But that's really rooted in some really deep insecurities to have to come from that place.
Yeah.
So the kind of confidence that I'm talking about is I'm confident in who I am. I'm confident in my growth. I'm confident in how I show up. I'm confident if I make mistakes. I'm able to have a healthy self-perception and show up for others in this really, like I had already said, seeped in authenticity, not in comparison with others.
Yeah.
And I talk to a lot of people about building confidence and building self-esteem. It's a big part of my work as a mental health therapist. And oftentimes their mind goes to that. Well, I don't want to, their concern is that their ego will get out of control.
Yeah.
And they kind of gaslight themselves to staying in a smaller position that's really ruminating and focused on what other people think of them.
Totally. I think that, there's all these very similar things that get put up against confidence. Yeah, like pride, ego, arrogance, and all this stuff. But confidence is more like that healthy balance that's fine-tuned right in the middle. And one thing that I have been trying to do to cultivate a good confidence is the vision of of my future self, and then dialoguing with my future self, because the confidence is where you're going, and so then it keeps you aligned, the feelings that you're wanting to feel. So things that go against that agreement with your future self is you're confident enough in who you're becoming in your evolution that those things are just you don't, you know that you don't have space and energy for those things.
Where you're putting your focus, where you're putting your intention.
Yeah.
And a couple other key differences as we talk about ego versus true confidence is that ego is often seeking external validation.
Yeah.
Do they like me? Do they accept me? Is it okay? Am I okay? Am I enough? And confidence that has this self-assurance and inner strength of, I'm enough. I'm a work in progress, and I have an intention on my growth, and I don't have to compare myself with others. I'm comparing myself to myself.
Yeah.
Am I farther along in my growth and in the areas that I'm focused on or on skills I'm wanting to learn than I was a year ago? Versus I really want to have this car because this other person has that car, and that's a sign of success. And once I have it, then I'll feel it.
Yeah.
Or an accomplishment. Once I get that PhD, once I get that job, once I get that this, everything will be fine because I'll be enough then. Once I get that relationship, then I'll be enough.
Yeah.
And it's a temporary fix.
Yeah.
It'll feel okay for a while, but it's not lasting because it's not really getting to the core, and it's maintaining a mindset of comparison where confidence is fostering collaboration and support with others. I want everyone to grow. I don't need to be in competition. I think everyone's growth is beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, now that we're defining it, there is a huge difference between ego and confidence because ego, I have this visual in my brain of like this big, slimy ball of mess that needs to be fed constantly, and it grows and shrinks, depending on how often you feed it, and it's this ugly thing that is like just okay, I need to be fed immediately, and I definitely that's like my attachment style, which I hate about myself. But like confidence, so like ego is feeding playing into the perceived judgments of like external influences, where confidence is like a curiosity path that you have made an agreement like with yourself that does not have any room for judgment because you know yourself best and you're seeing how it's playing out, but you have a pretty good idea of where you're headed.
Yeah, I love that. It's a curious path that you're taking. Yeah, there's a huge element of that. It's about being curious and courageous, because when you have that element of self-aware, which I'd say is probably like phase one. Phase one, be self-aware, which means we have to break down this wall of ego that says I'm the best or feels superior.
Right.
And that has an unrealistic or inflated self-image.
Yeah.
It's really rooted in perfectionism, this idea of if I'm perfect and I'm going to be the most perfect.
Yeah.
And I say that from someone who like I have been in that place before and I've felt that way. And it's so much better to come from a place of, I have some growth areas and I'm wanting to work on them, and I will, and I don't need to compare with anyone else. And what is an intention that I can set on that growth area, and how can I foster a sense tied to my values of living in integrity and of being compassionate and being loving towards others, and your confidence can build from that place based on the things that you value, not on the accolades, the attention, the material possessions, etc., that you think equal status.
Yeah.
And this is why there's so many people that gain a lot of success, gain fame, gain, all these things that we think we need to be happy, and yet they're not. And it's almost more depressing.
Yeah.
Well, because it's like, I'm truly broken is what they come to, when really they've just been working with the wrong tools, the wrong mindset.
Yeah, because they're really playing into this projected agreement with other people and people pleasing, and that's that's their identity of like what has been given to them or told to them. But then the confidence is like, no, it's a long game of, this is something I need to build like brick by brick and step by step. And then the further you journey down the more confident you become. Mm-hmm. And like that, to keep going back to that visual of the big slimy ball mm-hmm. that you have to feed, the comforting thing is that, it does need to be constantly fed, which also means on the other side is that it can starve. You can starve it and it'll just like eventually lose its power.
It's just something to be aware of.
Yeah.
I am so sure that my ego pops up from time to time.
Yeah.
And it's my job to be aware. I'd say it's a part that is probably a healthy perspective to have too. It's a part just like any other element of parts work that we've talked about. And so for me, it's like, let me be curious about that. Why did that just flare up for me?
Yeah.
Is there a reason behind it? Could I allow myself to release the attachment just a little bit more?
Yeah.
I think I just burped into the mic. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I confidently did.
Yeah, it's you. That's you coming through.
Confidently.
Right.
That's how I'm going to model this. Sorry, folks.
That's okay.
That's not the kind of ASMR you want to have.
ASMR is overrated.
Yeah. A real tricky piece around ego too is that it can very much strain relationships, strain interpersonal relationships. You can miss opportunities for growth because you're so focused on having a belief of being the best that you're not willing. You have no willingness to look at those parts, and it can bring up these these defenses, that's an easier way to say it, that just halt any opportunity for real connection, real authentic connection, and impede your development. So it's something for us to understand because it creates a very distorted view for somebody, and it can lead to very unrealistic expectations and behavior. So something to think about. But when we're talking about how one might be able to build confidence, and even what does confidence look like then if it's not ego? Because I think sometimes as people are likely listening to this and thinking about different people in their life who they view as being confident, or maybe who they view as coming from more of an ego state, let's define what that actually looks like. So first I'll ask, when you think about a confident person, what do you notice about them? What traits, what behavior, what communication skills?
Well, right now, it's hard because like to think of a confident person almost like incites some jealousy for me because like I have lost a lot of confidence recently, and but then I want it back so bad, So anyway, but the
thank you for your honesty. That's that would be difficult to think through, but
but like when I think of, so I guess an easier way to think of that is imagining my future self and like what that looks like, and the person who I'm relentlessly going to become. And that's so that type of confidence, I imagine, like I had said this before actually many episodes ago, but bright countenance and like just a good vibe, and somebody that doesn't rely on the approval of others, but is definitely like somebody who still gives to others, and is just knows how to take care of their emotional needs, has emotional maturity, and takes care of their health, their physical health and their mental health, and just like can effortlessly show up as their best self, and then it's like infectious, and I imagine myself, that version of myself where I'm like the person that I used to be, where I am always like cracking jokes and just like having fun, and it's crazy to think that it's right now as I'm saying all that, I miss that person, because that's my best version. That's who I want to be, but I don't feel like that person right now,
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think what I was picturing is a metaphor of a garden.
Yeah.
And a garden means that you have an awareness of what it's needing and there's constant tending to. And a garden can become overgrown.
Yeah.
And grow weeds and parasites and not thrive in that state.
Yeah.
It can also be recovered.
Absolutely.
It can also be recovered. It can also come back.
Yeah.
So if your garden feels like it's been overgrown and neglected, this might be a good episode, and these might be good tips and conversations to have, because it's not something that's gone forever.
Right. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. Like the beauty of the human experience is that we are like the most resilient species in the world, you know? Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, let's think about that. Yeah, probably.
Resilient.
Trees are pretty resilient.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of species that are more resilient, but cognitively, we're complex creatures.
Yeah.
And our resilience requires more effort to tend.
Yeah.
Because we have choice. It's not like we're just operating on pure instinct.
Yeah.
And we live in a much far more complicated world than that which us as a human species entered.
Yeah.
You know, this isn't the ideal environment for anyone to be able to thrive in. The constant need to perform or to be busy. I've talked about the toxicity of being busy and the busy culture we live in, or of living in such an individualistic society, at least if you are in a westernized culture. So also cut yourself some slack too, that for any of us, this isn't designed for us to thrive.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you can't.
Right.
But we need some tips. So let's get into that.
Yeah, give us some tips.
Yeah. So to define a little bit, to give some clarity, like someone who's confident, they would have clear and concise speaking and clear communication and active listening. So they're showing genuine interest in someone's conversation. And that really, people love that. People love to talk about themselves. Okay.
Yeah.
But to listen to someone actively and like genuinely care, that's a real gift you're giving someone. And that breaks down that sense of ego too, because you're allowing someone else to see that, oh, it's not just about you. You're willing and curious. There's open body language and confidence, right? Like you can see, and there's a study, oh gosh, her name is on the tip of my tongue. I'm so sorry, but we'll have to look it up. There was a study about body language and people who had a job interview. They either hunched and made themselves small. So bringing my shoulders in and like wrapping my arms around myself, making myself small. And then they went into the interview, and how well did they do? Versus people who were in what they call
power poses.
Power poses. Yeah. And then they went in. And I know there's been some debate about that, but in the elementary school I worked at, I would teach kids to do that before their test, and they really did like it. And I think there's an element of it that does help, because it's the muscle memory of what is associated with those poses.
Yeah.
It kind of gleans some things, but there's more than just being in a pose, that and adopting the physical body language to feeling truly confident is one little element.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to keep going, but is there a thought on body language?
Well, because I was listening to Mel Robbins' podcast yesterday, her very first one, because it's this really inspiring one that I go back to. Anyway, and she talks about like, if you want to feel a certain way, you have to take the action in that direction, kind of. And so like she references a time in her life where she felt really defeated and depressed, but she like forced herself to go do something, one little thing that made her feel good. Yes. And that was like buying fresh flowers or something. And so then yesterday I was feeling pretty down and depressed, and so thankfully I had this opportunity to go hang out with a couple of friends. And normally if I when I'm in that defeated posture. I want to isolate, and I'm like, no, I don't feel like doing it. But I'm like, no, I have to force myself to go have a little fun. And it was one step closer to happiness. And not that happiness is a destination, but like just something that I did to make myself feel better. But yeah, that power pose TED Talk, I think I've seen it several times.
Yeah.
I think her name...
Something Kitty.
I was going to say Amy Cuddy.
Cuddy.
Is that right? I don't know why.
Is it Amy? Yes. I was thinking Nicole, but I think it's Amy Cuddy.
Well, I think it's spelled Cudy because I remember watching it and taking notes.
Yes.
And it's so crazy because I have a horrible memory, but for some reason I remember that. I might be wrong, but you might have to Google that.
No. I watched this video so many times when I was teaching test preparation skills for students. You're totally right. It's
Amy
got
Cuddy?
our last name. Okay. We'll check later, and if it's correct, you get a sucker.
I get a golden star. Nice.
You get a gold star. I think an area that is more challenging for people is the idea of assertiveness, because there's a lot of elements that go into that. You have to assess your needs. You have to express your needs. You have to do so respectfully and directly and set boundaries when needed. And when someone has some of these attachment issues like we've discussed, or that hasn't been modeled, that can be a really difficult one. People often feel like, especially anyone who has those people-pleasing tendencies, can feel as though, oh, that feels mean to set a boundary.
Right.
And setting a boundary is the kindest thing to do for yourself and others oftentimes. And it can be done in a kind way. Does it mean that it might elicit unpleasant emotions?
Yeah.
Sure. I do not view emotions as good or bad, though. And if we're always avoiding making other people feel unpleasant emotions, we are not serving ourselves. That doesn't mean go be an asshole to everyone. It means this is how the healthiest way to operate in life, and to eliminate the idea that others should feel to eliminate the idea that others shouldn't feel unpleasant emotions, or that we shouldn't feel unpleasant emotions, is stealing and robbing a growth opportunity for both people.
Yeah, that you're not protecting anyone by like not upholding your boundaries. And that's such, I have nothing to add.
Thank you.
I had to earlier, just before we started recording, I set a pretty hard boundary, and I felt relief right afterward. And then yesterday I had to have a really hard conversation, which I definitely didn't feel like it, but I was like, I know that this is going to sit here and linger if I don't just force myself into it. Yeah, it's crazy because like feelings most of the time are just kind of these annoying things that are hanging around. And like if you're confident with the action steps that are like, necessary for the life that you want, you have to like kind of ignore those feelings and go, no, I'm not like that. Yeah, this fear of this hard conversation is not serving me at all.
Yeah, and I would even say it's maybe less of. I totally understand your perspective. Maybe just a tiny piece I would tweak isn't ignoring the feelings, but actually learning how to be more comfortable within the feeling.
Right.
Getting and expanding your window of distress tolerance.
Yeah.
So instead, it's like, ooh, I'm feeling nervous. I'm feeling fearful about this. Instead of like, ignoring it and I'm gonna shove it down. That's not what's happening. It doesn't really work.
Yeah, you're right.
It doesn't really work, and then we might just end up avoiding. I'm not gonna feel it, so I'm just gonna avoid the hard conversation.
Yeah.
And so instead, it's ooh, I'm feeling nervous about this. Yeah. Why is that? Conversations are hard. Conversations can be hard. Also, I know that if I work through this and I think about what I'm wanting to communicate in a respectful way, I can be really proud of myself for using all of my skills to make sure that I'm communicating really well.
Yeah.
Because no one is perfect, and plans change, and there's new directions, and I really have to assess my needs. So I can do this courageously.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a different even self-talk and processing that a lot of people aren't familiar with. We very often just say, ooh, yuck, that feeling. Go away. And this is more of, I'm going to wrap my arm around it and like, tell me more. Tell me more about where you're coming, fear. Oh, you're afraid of rejection?
Yeah.
I get that. You know what, though? You've been rejected before, and it wasn't the end of the world. You've had hard moments, and that didn't define you. It won't define you, right? It's learning how to have that pep talk.
Yeah.
And then one that has taken me a long time to work on is having like more achievable goals, realistic goals, small gradual work towards more significant achievements, and celebrating those successes to build that sense of accomplishment, because I think I have tended to choose like a really high goal and then been frustrated with myself if I wasn't able to navigate that.
No, I totally get what you're saying. Like, you need to give yourself little victories. I mean, it's okay to have like huge audacious goals, but then you have to also break it down into like achievable like milestones.
And what fits in your life right now, like realistically thinking through some of those things. Because I think for me, when it comes to motherhood and being a business owner, that's a piece I had to really consider, is like, okay, you might want that thing.
Yeah.
But how can you break it down so that realistically it fits? Because my values are very much wanting family time and presence and quality time.
Yeah.
And that can often be in direct contrast with being really disciplined towards a goal.
Yeah.
Great. Now we can define like what it looks like to be confident. How do I get there? How do you do that? And I think you had given an example, but like, you have to step out of your comfort zone. Like, you can't do what you've always done if you want a different result. You have to do something different. You have to be willing and courageous enough to do something different, to be bolder, to take a step and be bad at something, to start something new. So engage in activities that push your boundaries and challenge your comfort zone. Don't stay in a safe bubble, but how do I, make tiny steps towards that goal to, again, like widen that distress tolerance, take a little bit more risk. You want to focus on your strengths, your unique qualities, and the things that you value in your life. And that can be a fun conversation if there's trusted people that you have to say, how do you see me? What are my good qualities?
Oh, gosh, that would be such a scary question.
Do you want to try it?
I mean, I trust you. I feel safe with you, but like, I'm just thinking in certain contexts to ask that question.
Oh, I wouldn't ask it of someone who I wouldn't have already assessed as being like a safe person.
Yeah.
And you also want to be able to accept constructive criticism from friends, colleagues, mentors. That can be a hard one. But again, we all have blind spots.
Yeah.
We all do. And when we can understand that, it's typically a lot easier if it's delivered in a kind way.
Right.
In a truly constructive way.
Yeah.
Not meant to tear someone down. It's good for us to be aware of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, the thought that I had was, I just got out of a job that I really sucked at. And that's such a confidence killer, showing up and feeling like, gosh, I'm not good at this. Every single day.
You're bringing me back to some bad jobs. Yeah.
And then, and then just situations. A lot of people will be in situations like relationships or whatever, where they feel like they're not enough, but it's not something that they should really take personally, but, also another thought I had was, a lot of people lately have given me a lot of criticism. And so I'm thinking, I don't know if like unsolicited criticism is the most beneficial thing you can give someone, because most likely somebody is already self-conscious of all those things. And so when you like basically confirm their biggest doubts, then that is like, that just gives that harms them. Like the most beautiful thing you can do for somebody is to really help them see like how beautiful they are, you know? And the things, and that, I guess I'm just going full circle into what the exercise you were trying to do, but
I'm here with you.
Yeah.
I think if there are people giving unsolicited criticism and you're not in a space to receive it, even though perhaps that's a goal and you understand the benefit of it, it's a really good opportunity to practice assertiveness. And say, I really know that that's coming from a good place, and I want to be able to listen to what you're saying. Yeah. But in this moment, I think I'd actually really benefit from some kindness and softness. Yeah. You can understand that and know that, like, I have goals, but not today.
Right. Yeah. And then that almost a lot of times the criticism comes from a place of arrogance where it's like, I need to teach this person. Like they're not as smart as me, so they don't have as much awareness as me, you know. And
then maybe that's an indication of needing some better people.
Yeah, it's around. Exactly. And it's like, well, I don't, you know. Yeah. Anyway.
And as part of like building and bolstering that, I think it's really good to have some affirmations that you have. I feel like affirmations have gotten a bad reputation. It's a fluffy thing or something, but it's something that has really helped me along my way to have a mantra, a reminder, something to kind of ground me so that I don't fall back into old patterns. So it could be, and I feel like one that embraces a growth mindset of, I'm proud of myself and the path that I'm on. I'm worthy of good things. I believe in my contributions and my value. I'm stronger with each challenge that comes my way. I can be calm and confident under pressure. Yeah. Every day I'm becoming a better version of myself. I'm proud of who I'm becoming. Those are some examples that may resonate. And if they do, then one homework assignment I give a lot of my clients when we have conversations like that is, and this is if they're creative, if that's something they enjoy, is go home and make a little sign and decorate it with a lot of like joy and care and intention, and put it somewhere prominent where you're going to see it. Yeah. And then another piece that just recently someone shared with me. Actually, I hope I didn't share it on the last episode, but if I did, then here's a bonus, is if you print off a picture of yourself, especially like using these different softwares, which, you know, some people aren't all for, but if you are, that can age you like 10 or 20 years. And then post that picture, you know, on your fridge or in your bathroom, put it somewhere, because it's going to serve as a reminder of, I want to make good decisions for that person, for that version of me. I want that person to be proud of me. It's giving you this sense of, oh, I am becoming someone. Who do I want that person to be? Absolutely. Yeah, actually, and there was another exercise that I did the other day, where you imagine you're sitting at a table with your future self, like maybe 5 years from now, but the thing is, you have to imagine this is the absolute best version that you could possibly imagine of yourself, like the one that's achieved all your dreams, your wildest dreams. And I remember sitting there like asking this future version of myself, like, did we do it? And did we accomplish everything we wanted to? And in my mind, I'm going, oh gosh, like what if you know, maybe the answer is maybe. Like, no, James, you have to be like fearless, you know? And so that was a lot to work through to kind of like reconnect with that. Like the confidence in yourself to achieve those things. Like that person, you have to connect with that person in order to become that person, and like fearlessly hope. Because that's what I think most people are afraid of, is like is putting your hope, because hope is like such a you have to be strong to hope. It's like such a brave thing to do, because there's so many situations in my life where, you know, I got my hopes up and then was disappointed, and so then it's like, oh gosh, hope is painful. Like it's better if I just don't hope. You know. I totally understand that too. It kind of, maybe for me, it goes a little hand in hand with the area that was tricky for me with goals, but our attachment to an idea of something, of how something happens, can also lead to a lot of suffering. And this is the tricky line you must walk when it comes to confidence. Because at the same time, I think it is powerful to visualize yourself achieving a goal. But is it a goal that is achievable? Or is it an unrealistic goal? And can you give yourself some grace in the way, the timeline, all these other factors? Because oftentimes things can be outside of your control. So that there's enough flexibility there for life. But that was one that in grad school really got me through, is I would just keep going, because visualize yourself holding that diploma, keep on going, you can do it. And that was one that really did help. But that was a goal that I felt confident I would be able to achieve. It was just, taxing.
You want to know what my future self had achieved? I was imagining that this podcast, we had millions of subscribers, and there's the YouTube plaques on the wall, and and then we had built this dream studio that Zach got to help create, a recording studio, all this stuff,
and just providing better and better content. And I want to keep improving my speaking, which was the whole reason for me why some of this came up. Was my goal wasn't that I wanted a podcast, I wanted to improve my public speaking. But I'm a mom, and I don't want to have another place to go to do that. I want to do it in a way that fits my life.
Totally.
And so now that goal has shifted because this collaboration has made it possible. And I'm so grateful. I really have to tell you, I wouldn't have been able to do this on my own. I really,
thank you.
I needed this.
I'm really grateful too.
And now my goal is just, gosh, it feels so good to create a space to have these conversations and to allow it to be heard by other people. And I've gotten so much better at receiving constructive feedback. And I've gotten, it's fun to see the growth of my confidence through the vessel of this podcast.
Well, you remember that first Ren reaction video where people freaking filleted you?
But I learned a lot.
I know, but then we listened and we tweaked it, and then from that point on, everyone was like, "Okay, I'm glad you listened." And then people were like, now you read the comments and people are like, Kaylani is the best. She's the best reactor. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Stuff like that. And I'm like, it really only took one failure.
I don't need to be the best, but it makes me feel so good just that they saw my heart. Or it's a funny thing when you're not in person in the same physical space as someone else, but to still feel an emotional connection with them. And I get to feel that. It's not something I've experienced before this, and that's a really lovely gift. So thank you so much for everyone who's listening or who has joined along in the delightful family that we're trying to create here with Delightfully Dysfunctional. And it's helped improve my growth, my vision, my goals, and who I want to show up to be for the world. It's really fun. And that goes into building a support network. Who are the people you're around? We kind of talked on that with some of the reflections you had recently, but negative influences that undermine your confidence, that's going to be a struggle. There's some family members that when I'm around them, historically, it's I don't know how to not become a different person who feels very self-conscious and fumbles and makes more mistakes than I normally would, and doesn't know, because there's this history of negative feedback that I've received from them. It doesn't feel that way now when I walk into that space, but that's an example of an indication of maybe those aren't your people then. Maybe you need to get some better people who can see who you are better. So how do we do this? How do we have regular reflection around the goal of becoming more confident and of cultivating that? Journaling is a great way to analyze your thoughts and have some clarity. It can, and I know a lot of people struggle with journaling. I have said this before, and I've said to clients, don't journal with the intent of anyone reading it. In fact, I often have thrown away a journal when I'm done because it wasn't for anyone else except for me. It was for my processing, and I got the value from it. It's not me saying, today I ate a ham sandwich. It went
Like
on
a diary?
stroll. Yeah, no. It's, I'm feeling a lot of resentment in this area, and I wish I didn't, but it's uncomfortable. And I'm trying to sit with that and understand it. I wonder if I could try this. Who are people? Maybe it's time for me to turn and ask for help.
Yeah.
It's where I can just be.
Yeah.
So give yourself the gift of navigating that. And then different self-assessments. One that I really like is the Brene Brown Wholehearted Inventory. I know I've mentioned that before, but if you just search that, Wholehearted Inventory, and I had you do it at one point.
Oh yeah, the mission statement thing?
No, it's it assesses some different areas of your life. Actually, it's my saved one is still on my phone, so I can pull it up really quick because I just recently did it. And it's my little check-in. I personally kind of try to do it about every 6 months, but it's so they have the, how many guideposts are there? So there's 10 different guideposts that they use, and it's evaluating whether you are letting go of what people think and leaning in and cultivating authenticity. Are you letting go of perfectionism and cultivating self-compassion? Are you letting go of numbness and powerlessness and building a resilient spirit? Letting go of comparison and embracing creativity? Letting go of exhaustion as a status symbol and productivity as self-worth? And leaning into play and rest? Are you letting go of anxiety as a lifestyle and cultivating calm and stillness? Are you letting go of self-doubt and supposed to thoughts? I meant to, I should, supposed to, and leaning into meaningful work? And are you being cool and always in control? Or are you embracing laughter, song, and dance? Oh, there's one more. Oh, well, I guess it's accumulation, I guess, of all those 10 would be, are you unclear and uncommitted to your values, or do you have value clarity and commitment? Do you have that intention? Because that's the first step. So many people are living a life without intention towards what they want, simply hiding from uncomfortable emotions and self-soothing, being around people who don't help bolster the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
I have a poem. And this is, this is the Way Forward, Young Pueblo. I know I've been on a Young Pueblo.
No, he's great.
I know. If anyone has other poetry recommendations, I kind of keep cycling through the same 2 or 3 that I really love.
It's great.
And his kind of has moments that are poetic and then moments that are more just profound thoughts and insights, okay? Focusing on a few fundamentals can create a massive change in your life. Number 1. Make your healing, personal transformation, and well-being top priorities. Number 2, refrain from harming yourself or others. Number 3, create mental space for gratitude. Number 4, be kind and generous to others. Shifting your focus to growth and inner evolution will not only decrease the tension in your mind, but also automatically change the way you relate to the ups and downs of life. The law of cause and effect is pervasive through this universe of mind and matter. Being generous in a balanced way does bring good results. But there is no telling when the fruit of your good actions will ripen. If you are dedicated to cultivating inner peace, it is essential to understand that the kindness you give to others will fundamentally support your inner clarity and calm. Inner clarity and calm. That's good stuff.
Yeah, aka peace. Yeah.
How can you... And inner clarity and calm is maybe other words that I would use to describe someone who's confident.
Right.
That those are things that they found.
Yeah. Like for me, usually when I'm confident, my brain doesn't have these intrusive thoughts. You know, I'm like pretty centered and I feel peace. And so that's the feeling that I want to feel again, which I'm closer.
Yeah.
But so that's
maybe
a good.
Just as one last visualization, like maybe you mentioned like climbing a mountain, and I like that metaphor, so I'm going to play off of that. But
Okay.
as a fellow mountain climber, not literally but figuratively, bringing in a perspective of each step, no matter how small, is bringing you towards your goal, closer to that summit.
Yeah.
And even when the climb is tough and exhausting, excruciating at times, you keep going.
Yeah.
You keep going to reach that goal, knowing that it's so worth it, knowing that it is so worth the effort.
Yeah.
And I hope that motivates anyone who's listening to consider how they can adopt a more courageous, confident, and really compassionate perspective to their growth and healing.
Yeah.
So one last thing that I do want to share is that I currently have openings for some coaching work.
Oh, sweet.
And and there'll be a link in the description to schedule a free 30-minute discovery call with me where we can talk about what's going on in your life and how I might be able to help you. I really enjoy working with people who want to be curious and explore and feel ready to show up and be open, because oh man, there's nothing better than to be within a therapeutic relationship with someone who is ready for big shifts and big change. I love to help be that guide. So please check out the link in the description, and it would mean the world if you subscribed and shared with anyone that you know who maybe could benefit from the information that we share, the conversations that we have. Please like, subscribe, share, and we will see you in the next one.
Goodbye.
Bye.